This programme has been made to highlight the work of JENGbA, a not-for-profit human rights organisation whose aims are to redress the wrongful conviction of those people found guilty under the joint enterprise law and to support the many hundreds of families whose loved ones are now serving time in prison for a crime they did not commit.
I first learnt about joint enterprise 5 years ago when my son's best friend, Kenneth Alexander, was convicted of murder. Because I knew he hadn't committed the murder, I knew he was involved in a fight, but he was knocked unconscious to the floor. When I found out that he was found guilty and given a 15-year minimum life tariff, that's when I first started to investigate the law of joint enterprise.
But what exactly is joint enterprise, or as it's sometimes called, common purpose? Well, the law of joint enterprise was first introduced into British society some 300 years ago as a means of abolishing duelling among the upper classes. And the way it worked was that it allowed the authorities to arrest not just the duellists, but also their supporters, seconds, and even the doctors standing by in attendance, and then to jointly prosecute and convict everyone involved, no matter how small their part in the enterprise might have been.
The fact that the law is 300 years old doesn't mean to say that it's not appropriate, but in the context of our present-day society it does need to be reviewed and to be looked at again in order for it to be seen to be fair in the way it's applied.
When I first looked into joint enterprise, I thought it was affecting groups of young men. And I was pretty sure, because Kenneth is a black boy, I was pretty sure it was possibly a racist law. I now believe that it's not particularly racist, it's discriminatory. It affects anybody who has poor legal representation, who might be on the periphery, who might not understand the law, who might have been in another city, who might have been on the end of a phone. It has such a far-reaching ability to scoop up as many people as possible that can be linked to a crime, that's who it's affecting. So it can be affecting you or I, it can affect anybody.
Well, Mark's serving 16 years because he was in a flat 6 weeks previous to a man being murdered. And as a result, Mark's now serving 16 years.
There's a whole crowd of them are all there at a party, and they rounded, you know, sort of the ones that frequented this here, and they were all questioned and they'd done all their fingerprints, and that's how it came about.
But the deceased man's friend verified under oath Mark's story as being true, that he was in the flat 6 weeks previous to it.
It all basically started over an argument over a silly taxi. They said that Laura and them had pinched this man's taxi, so Laura and Michael went, "Oh, no problem, we'll get out." So as my daughter were getting out, one of these big guys threw Laura to the floor, and this is how it all started from. Because there were like 2 stages to this fight. There was a fight where there was with the taxi, and then where the second part, where they went up to this house, but Laura wasn't in, she had nothing to do with this second part of the fight. But they've classed the case as all one big fight. And I thought, you know, she'd get something like violent disorder or something like that. I never expected for 1 minute she'd get done for murder.
They were in a park, and one of the lads that was with them just viciously attacked a young girl that was with them.
But because Anthony supplied the knife.
Well, because Anthony carried the knife.
He
didn't even know the knife had gone missing out of his bag, but because he had the knife to start with, and even though only he and another one with them had tried to stop this man, and it was proven that, even so, they gave him 23 years.
He was out one night with a group of friends. They went to a club called Shillabees, and basically I think an argument occurred between his friends and the deceased friends, and it was basically just bickering like what you're looking at and stuff like that. And then what happened is the bouncers chucked them all out onto the street, and they had like a little scuffle, like Jade's friends and the deceased friend, but Jade wasn't like fighting, he was just like pulling everyone off of each other and trying to stop it. Well, he got 19 years minimum. He's devastated. He just doesn't know you know, he doesn't want to hurt Ben's family, you know, to make them think that Ben means nothing. He knows that, you know, the people that done it are in prison serving life as well. But he just doesn't understand why he's there. He just doesn't understand how he could be, you know, accused of killing someone. He would never take anybody else's life. And he is struggling. It's not easy. It's not easy for any of us.
Anthony got convicted under the joint enterprise rule because he was with a person the night another person got shot. When he had his Cody in the car with him, he said to Anthony, "Hang on here a minute, I won't be long." So Anthony said, "Okay." So he went round to 4 streets away where this person lived and shot him.
And the bloke said to him, he said, "I've just killed Ben JENGbA." And my son closed his eyes and I think he thought of Evans, because he thought he was next.
And he got charged as joint venture or joint enterprise, and he received a 30-year jail sentence.
With Abid's case, they were charging him up first with the conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. When the trial started, just about an hour beforehand, they changed it to murder. With him, he wasn't even anywhere near the murder where the murder took place. Didn't even know of the person who got murdered, but because he were friends with a few others, they got caught in this joint enterprise. And the police, the way they put the case together, the picture they drew was like a gangland fight between 2 groups, which anybody in the area knows that never happened.
I think the origin of the law, the idea that 4 bank robbers go to a bank and 3 of them have got guns and go into the bank and use those guns, and there's a man sitting in the car, I think if anyone uses that gun, I think he is as culpable as those 3 people who go inside. That, to me, is joint enterprise. And there are other examples you could use. I mean, if a group of boys go out knowingly, all armed, knowingly that someone's going to get hurt, that is a joint enterprise. That is not what we're seeing. That is not what's being used.
When joint enterprise was explained to me, how it should be, if more than one person commits a crime and they're all involved and they all have a role in it, I can honestly say then, well, yeah, fair enough, I understand joint enterprise and I know why it's there. So for me, when Jordan was found guilty, it was like, I agreed that the law had a place, but it had made a massive mistake as far as Jordan was concerned. And I actually thought it was only him and it wasn't happening to anyone else. And I thought that we could progress and we could get it sorted out. And I've met people like Shirley and everyone else, lots of other people. And it's not just one mistake, it's hundreds of mistakes. And that's what, what makes me, that fires me up and makes me do as much as I can.
We were searching on the net, we didn't know what to do, we was just stuck. So we found this United Against Injustice and we decided to go to one of their meetings, and basically I think we was the first, well, Jade was the first to be like a joint enterprise in that group.
JENGbA was adopted by United Against Injustice, an umbrella group that incorporates all the injustice groups around the country, including London Against Injustice, who showed its support by holding a meeting here at the House of Commons in March 2010, not just to highlight the plight of those people who have fallen foul of the joint enterprise law, but also to raise a cross-party political awareness.
The build-up to the House of Commons, it went ballistic. The emails were coming in fast and furious. We had families coming down in coachloads. We booked a small room for 60. We had to get a bigger room. I think there were about 200 people. It was packed. There were people in the hallway. It was absolutely packed. And from that, we realised that a campaign was needed because people demanded one. They wanted one. They wanted someone to speak for them, because this law affects people who have never had any dealings necessarily with the law. They come from sort of often very poor backgrounds, so they haven't had very good legal representation. So the JENGbA campaign was born because of need.
I met Gloria, and obviously Gloria knows Shirley as well because of the London meetings. And as time's progressed, together we've all sort of realised up and down the country that there's hundreds of people all in the same boat, and we've just, we've joined forces, and now JENGbA exists because the quantity of people that need it.
When we first formed JENGbA, we decided to hold meetings at the Lib Dem conference, the Labour conference and the Conservative conference.